Bernie Sanders. Take a look. Take a look. Now what you saw there was Bernie and his wife. Bernie and his wife. Looks like she doesn't miss too many fucking meals, huh? Doesn't skip too many meals. But take a look at this guy. Look at him. Kind of looks like a psychopath, right? I mean, now, so this is he wants to say a few words as the presidential campaign comes to an end. This is 2 months ago. So let's listen to what he has to say. And see what he can reveal about himself he's hiding.
As this campaign comes to an end, let me say a few words to some of the folks out there who may not have yet decided whom they're going to vote for, or maybe sitting it out. And I know there are people who disagree with Kamala Harris on this or that issue, especially Gaza, and count me as one of those who do disagree with her on that issue. But I think overall, the choice could not be clearer in terms of this campaign. In my view, we just cannot elect a president who is a pathological liar, like Donald Trump, somebody who is working overtime to undermine the American democracy. And mark my words, on Tuesday night, on election night, no matter what the vote tallies will be, Donald Trump early on in the evening will declare, hey, I've won this election, and if there's any state that I lost, it's because of voter fraud. That's what he will say, and that's what demagogues do, and that's how you move a country toward an authoritarian form of society. And let me also say this, because I know a lot of...
So, first of all, sorry, they're all liars. There is no democracy in America. It's a complete farce, okay? That's the problem there. You got Bernie wants to tell you that one side is better than the other. That's what keeps the Democratic illusion alive. You think that you have a fighting chance. You think your vote counts, and it doesn't. It does not. If you think it does, then you're fucking clueless. You don't understand how shit works, okay? You don't understand what's going on. I know well what's going on. I wrote about it. I exposed it 20 fucking years ago. Whether it's Wall Street, healthcare system, pension system, Social Security, right? I know what's going on. And I pointed out the problem with lobbyists, corporate lobbyists. That's the problem. They buy off all the votes for the corporations. So it works on both sides.
People out there understand not only that climate change is real, but it is an existential threat to our country and to the entire world, and that we've got to cut carbon emissions. And we've got to bring the whole world together to transform our energy system if we're going to create a planet that's healthy and habitable for our kids and future generations. Please understand, Donald Trump thinks that climate change is a hoax originating in China, which means that if he's elected.
No. Climate change is not real. Climate change, in terms of the premise, if you understand the premise of climate change, it's bullshit. There is no imminent threat to planet Earth due to the change of the climate. Okay? That's fact. Now, you're listening to some guy, some senile motherfucker who doesn't have any science background. Why are you going to believe him? Why are you going to believe some guy who's been told by people who have a financial interest in the climate change narrative? Why are you going to believe this guy? Maybe you should believe people who are qualified and credible and who don't have a financial interest at stake. You know, people like maybe, I don't know, this guy who I interviewed, world-class physics professor, world fucking class. And I'm talking about Professor William Happer. professor emeritus, Princeton, physics department. He was also, the name may sound familiar, he was also in Trump's first term, presidential term, he was heading the, I don't know, I think maybe the Department of Energy. I'm not quite sure what it was, but he's also a member of the National Academy of Sciences. If you are in the National Academy of Sciences, you are one of the top scientists in the fucking world. Small handful. That's like a wet dream for all scientists to be inducted into that. That means you have forged a major significant career. Okay? And virtually every single Nobel laureate that I'm aware of has come from that group, National Academy of Sciences. Okay? You might want to listen to that interview and see what Happer has to say. Nice man, brilliant man. And this is a man who's also, he's a leader in spectroscopy. And if you don't know what spectroscopy is, if anybody knows about the heating due to carbon dioxide and light waves and all this stuff, it's a guy that's an expert. He is a pioneer in his field, in spectroscopy. Okay? So I think I'm going to listen to William Happer, who, as a retired physicist, doesn't have anything to gain or to lose by speaking the truth. I'm going to listen to him over Bernie Sanders or any of these other motherfuckers who want to tell you climate change is real and it's not. Okay, understand it kind of reminds me of some type of, I won't mention the name from the past because if I do, maybe the video will get struck down. Some other narrative that no one really defines exactly what we're talking about. They just throw it out there. You see, you have to understand, you have to define what you're talking about. You can't just throw something out there. Okay, they changed it from global warming to climate change about 15 years ago when the earth failed to warm like it was supposed to. So they figure, hey, you know what? We'll just call it climate change because we know the climate's always changing and we don't know which way, but because it's changing all the time, we'll attribute that to the combustion of fossil fuels, of the evil carbon dioxide gas. You see, it's a big money grab. It's a power grab. That's all it is. There's no imminent threat to life on Earth. That's fact. Okay? So,
the United States will surrender the fight against climate change. China, Europe will follow, and that whole effort is now gone. It's over. We've lost the struggle against climate change. That's what happens if Trump is elected. And then if you believe, as I do, that women have a constitutional right to control their own bodies and not have local politicians determining what they can or cannot do, you've got to vote for Kamala Harris, who has spent her whole life fighting for women's rights. While Trump proudly boasts that he appointed 3 right-wing Supreme Court justices who voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. So the choice is clear. But this campaign is not just about defeating Donald Trump. It's about electing somebody who has some ideas that are going to improve life for working people. For example, Kamala Harris understands that we have millions and millions of people in this country working for 10, 11, 12 bucks an hour. Can't make it on those wages.
I'm not going to even talk about that. That's opinion. That's someone can agree with abortion or disagree. That's not, that's someone's own opinion.
She wants to raise the minimum wage to a living wage of at least $15 an hour. Kamala understands that if workers are going to earn decent wages, decent benefits, they need a union. She's pro-union.
It's funny, Bernie Sanders and all these Democrats, they're for always raising the minimum wage, right? Raise the minimum wage. Sounds good, doesn't it? Now, if you're a high income earner, if you're a decent person, you certainly don't want people at the bottom to not be able to make living wages, right? But a lot of people who are high income, they're not decent people. This is part of the problem that's happened to America. Everyone is out for themselves. And of course, that unity that they used to have in America has been intentionally engineered to be broken down through various means. The media apparatus, right? Pop culture, many things. You know, it's me, not the whole people. But anyway, the point is this, folks. Whether you support minimum wage or not, the fact is this. Minimum wage would rise by market forces if you closed the borders. The reason why minimum wage is so low and stays low is because there's this constant flood of illegal aliens who come to the country who are willing to take jobs for peanuts. That's what keeps minimum wages low. Okay, it's not the myth that you've heard. Oh well, they do the work that no one else wants to do. No, that's not true. You see, corporations don't want to pay workers a fair wage, so they'd rather have illegals come over and build the houses and pick the vegetables and fruits and so on and so forth. Bernie Sanders wants those illegals over. He wants to keep the minimum wage down. He's actually advocating for keeping minimum wage down by wanting open borders. If you close the fucking borders, the minimum wage will rise by natural market forces. On the other hand, if you artificially raise the minimum wage, you're going to definitely create inflation. That's a fact. Okay? Think about it for a second. How come no one's ever said this, by the way? Nobody in the world has ever said this. It's pretty fucking basic. A couple of reasons. Number one, those who have the exposure don't want the truth to get out. Number two, there's a lot of stupid people out there. Think about it. If you close the borders, you're going to have a real market dynamic, supply and demand, right? You're going to have a real market dynamic. That's going to drive minimum wage higher based upon market forces. If you artificially manipulate the market by opening the borders, letting people in who, number one, will work for anything, number two, don't even keep the money in the country, send it home often, obviously it's going to keep minimum wage down. So why, Mr. Sanders, if you really are concerned about the working class person, why the fuck are, number one, you wanting the borders open to keep minimum wages down, and number two, you're wanting illegals to take the jobs of the working class? You got it, folks? You see why this guy's a fucking fraud? It's pretty simple. He's obviously a fraud. Okay? These guys, they want the borders open. And to be honest with you, don't think that the Republicans don't, because they also do. Democrats want the borders open for the votes. Republicans want the borders open for the cheap labor. Okay?
She supports the PRO Act, making it easier for workers to join unions. Trump, of course, opposes that. Kamala Harris understands that it is absurd, embarrassing, that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and that working parents today are really struggling to bring up their kids. She wants to expand the child tax credit, make it permanent, which will go a long way to lowering childhood poverty in America. Kamala understands that we have a housing crisis in Burlington, Vermont, Los Angeles, California, every place in between. And then among other things, we have to build millions of units of affordable housing so that we could lower the cost of housing in America. And Kamala understands that there is something...
You know, a lot of this stuff, by the way, folks, could be solved if we eliminated all these trade deals, which, by the way, Trump is not really in favor of. Keep in mind, Trump is owned, just like his first term, he's owned, bought and paid for by corporate America. Probably you guys didn't see it his first term, but if you don't see it now, then you're goddamn blind. It's obvious. Bought off by Musk, bought off by all the big tech. Okay? All the politicians are owned by the corporations. So why don't they end the trade deal? Folks, all these trade deals, NAFTA, all this stuff, both parties supported. In fact, the beginnings of NAFTA, I believe, were from the Reagan administration. Passed during Clinton years, right? It's both parties. So if you are sending jobs overseas, what do you think that's doing to the working and middle class? It's fucking impoverishing them, causing them to need welfare. Right, Bernie, you stupid motherfucking psychopath, fraud? Why isn't anyone addressing that? Folks, why isn't Trump addressing what I'm talking about with trade? The real problem with trade, how it impoverishes working and middle class. They don't want to talk about that. All Trump wants to do is throw out this line about patriotism and bring the jobs back. He doesn't want to talk about the details because he doesn't want people to truly understand what's going on. You know why? Because when he doesn't bring the fucking jobs back, remember, he didn't do it in his first term. When he doesn't do it, he doesn't want people to say, wait a second, God damn it, I'm relying on this. This made me impoverished. As you told me, Donald, you explained it to me. We got to have this deal. You understand? They're all frauds, folks. I wrote about all this shit, the wealth and income disparity, everything I wrote 20 years ago. That's why I was banned. They don't want people to know what's going on, okay? Why do you think I know what the fuck's going on? It's so obvious to me. I researched all this shit and wrote about it to a good enough extent that enabled me to predict the financial crisis, by the way, and everything else that's happened. You hear now about all these things in healthcare. Well, guess what? I read a fucking book about healthcare 16 years ago, exposing the whole system. And now people are out stealing my fucking thunder. Oh, God, it's a fucking joke.
A bit crazy, a bit cruel, that if somebody gets cancer treatment, struggling for their lives, their family should not be hounded for years by bill collectors. And that's why she wants to get rid of all medical debt in this country. So I think the choice is clear. And while some of us may have differences of opinion and disagree with Kamala Harris on this or that issue, I hope very much we will not sit out this election. We cannot sit it out. So let's get involved. Let's do everything we can. Let's come out and vote on Election Day. And let's make sure that Donald Trump is defeated and that Kamala Harris is our next president. Thank you all very much.
Wow. So you hear that. Yeah, okay. So he's talking about Harris wanting to get rid of all medical debt. Think about that. What a stupid fucking solution. I mean, you have to be a fucking dingbat to think that's going to help. What do you think getting rid of medical debt's going to do? That doesn't solve the fucking problem. All it does is creates a moral hazard. Okay? All it does is creates a big problem. You don't fix something like healthcare by getting rid of medical debt. You completely redesign the system. Single payer, universal healthcare. That's the only solution. You can't fix it here and there, piece by piece. You got to break the whole system. Then, of course, that's not going to happen. Too much money involved. Too many, the AMA is a very, very powerful lobbyist group in Washington. But, Wall Street runs healthcare. That's why it's a complete fucking disaster. It's a complete criminal industry. And, I wrote about, in my book 20 years ago, the second major problem, long-term problem America faced. The first one was trade, our trade policy. I detailed everything. Things you're hearing about today. China using Mexico as a backdoor. I wrote about that 20 fucking years ago. Boom. Boom, motherfucking boom. Okay? Nobody else but me. The second major long-term problem America faces, aside from trade, which has destroyed millions of of incomes, middle working class, is healthcare. That's the number 2 problem I chronicled in my book, America's Healthcare Crisis, which was a book I wrote a few years later. This is the next crisis in America. Healthcare, big problem. So if anybody knows what the fuck's going on, it's me, the guy that detailed all these things a long time ago, and they've only gotten worse. I'm the guy that was banned. I'm the guy that didn't use any bad language, didn't use any politically incorrect terms or anything like that. I simply exposed what was going on, and I've been banned. World-leading expert. That's right. Meanwhile, you get all these fucking shills and idiots that are promoted. Folks, it pays to understand what's going on. If you're listening to the media who's going to tell you who the experts are, you're being fooled. The only way you're going to find out who the real experts are, use your fucking head and do some research and see. Okay? These people they're positioned, they're promoted for a reason. And it's not to help you. It's to keep control of the system through disinformation and as gatekeepers. Okay, that's the reality. That's the way it works. Let's listen to the next video here. I attended Trump's inauguration yesterday. Here's my thoughts. Okay, great. I'm sure he's going to talk about, the billionaires going there. And I don't know what else.
I was at the Trump inauguration yesterday, and needless to say, I disagree with much of what he had to say. But what really struck me, however, is not what he said, which was not surprising given his rhetoric, but what he didn't say, The simple truth is that Donald Trump gave a major speech, the first speech of his second presidency, and ignored virtually every important issue facing the working families of this country. How crazy is that? Our healthcare system is broken, is dysfunctional, and it's wildly expensive. Not one word from Trump about how he is going to address the healthcare crisis. We pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, sometimes 10 times more than the people in other countries. And 1 out of 4 Americans are unable to afford the prescriptions that their doctors prescribe. Not one word in his speech on the high cost of prescription drugs.
Wait a second. Wait a second here. So I'm just curious as to why, if Bernie wants to fix the healthcare problem, why didn't he make these demands when Biden was in office? What did Biden do? Folks, no one's going to fix healthcare ever in America, okay? Until the people take to the fucking streets. Got it? That's what it's going to take. Now, this episode with this guy, what's his name, who killed the CEO, that's a pretty good fucking start. That's a pretty good start. Okay? That's a pretty good start. Stuff like that's what's going to take. That's the only thing that's going to do it. You see? That's it. Anything else, it's not going to... The older you are, you go ask your parents. They've been around long enough to see and hear all the little bullshit short-term solutions passed by Congress to fix healthcare. None of them fucking work. None of them. It's been going on for decades. It's just a delay mechanism. It's an appeasement. Okay? You can't fix a system that's broken. They need a universal healthcare system. But you see, Wall Street's got its greedy, dirty, fucking parasitic hands all over healthcare. And they don't want to let go. And it's not just Wall Street. Wall Street infested healthcare, infected it. And so now you've got every single aspect of the healthcare system in America is completely fucked. It's not just the insurers. It's not just the drug companies. It's also the physicians. greedy bastards, greedy motherfuckers that are in the business of medicine. The fucking business. They want to be in the business of medicine. They got all their fucking clinics and they're writing all their fucking stupid books. They can't count their money fast enough. You got it? It's also the hospitals. The whole system is corrupt to the core. It's completely fucked. You know, it's not the tort reform. It's not the lawsuits. That's nonsense. Every single aspect of U.S. healthcare is broken and needs to be fixed. Now, when it comes to the actual care, clearly America is, you could argue, the very best in certain areas. No doubt about it. This is where people get it wrong. They confuse the expense of U.S. healthcare and the lack of accessibility to basic services with America having terrible healthcare. In terms of the competence of advanced medical care, America is one of the best, maybe the best in the world. If you have advanced stage cancer, you want to be in a U.S. hospital or even a European hospital, right? America innovates the vast majority of medical therapies and innovations. You understand? When you're talking about the latest cutting edge treatments, they come from America mostly, right? So if you have a advanced cancer, hard to treat cancer or some other disease, if you need a triple bypass, right? You need you have a brain surgery, something. You want to be in an advanced hospital. America is very good for that stuff. When it comes to the high cost procedures, America's great because they throw a lot of money into healthcare. That's one of the fucking problems. Okay? If you need ER care, emergency room, ICU, America's great. Guess why? Because it's expensive as fuck. Okay? America's great at that. But when it comes to the care and management of chronic disease, asthma, COPD, diabetes, things like that, when it comes to kind of routine things that require medical access, America sucks. It's not been designed to treat the patient's chronic disease care. It's designed as a money machine. This is the problem. There's also medical overutilization. They overutilize technology. Why? To boost the bucks, to boost the bill, to boost the revenues. I'll give you a great example. When a dentist opens his office, or anything, even maybe a chiropractor, who knows, these fucking quacks. Any type of medical professional, they open their own private practice. Guess who shows up on the door? First thing, medical equipment, medical device guys, salesmen. Dentist, guess what? You got a guy there from Perkin Elmer, or what's the name? I can't think of it. Becton Dickinson. You got guys from maybe Siemens, let's say, that want to sell the dentist x-ray machine. That's why every time if you're in America, you go to the dentist, what's the first thing they do? Especially a new patient. Take an x-ray. Guess what? That's not standard procedure everywhere. It's only standard procedure in America. Why? Because it's about the fucking money. Guess what? X-ray salesman comes to the dentist. He says, look, doc, I can show you how to make 30% more in revenues every year if you buy this x-ray machine instead of renting it. If you buy it, here's the math. Right? And the dentist says, oh, that's pretty good. Because, the dentist he's a small businessman. That's how he's thinking, like a business guy. How much money can he make? Which is already a problem if you're in healthcare. But that's the way they've put these guys. Private practice, you got to pay the rent, you got to pay the bills. The dentist says, great, I'll invest in an x-ray machine. Same thing with small medical practices. They all have their own x-ray machines. Why? To boost the revenues. Guess what? They're taking a lot of x-rays that don't need to be taken. That don't need to be taken. That's a great example, a simple example of a big problem in the healthcare system known as medical overutilization. It's overutilization. They're utilizing technology when they don't need to. Okay? There's many, many examples of that. I could go on and fucking on. So I think I probably know about healthcare. I'm actually a fucking expert in healthcare. Okay? You're not getting the truth, folks. You're getting lies. You're getting cherry-picked anecdotes. You're getting bullshit. And, of course, Bernie Sanders is only going to come out and demand universal health care once the Republican's in office. Why wasn't he pounding the fucking table when Biden was in office? Right? They had plenty of chances. They had 2 terms with Obama. Right? And then they had Biden, 4-year gap. Out of the past 16 years, they had 12 fucking years, and they couldn't do it. You see? They don't really want it. They're full of shit. It's just a talking point they use to trash the other side.
We have 800,000 Americans who are homeless and millions of people spending 50 or 60% of their limited income on housing. We have a major housing crisis in America. Everybody knows it. And Trump, in his inaugural address, did not devote one word to it. Today in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had. The wealthiest 3 people in America.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. One reason why we've got so many homeless people that can't afford housing is because they don't have jobs. They're underemployed. Guess why? Because all those factories that used to be in America, those auto plants, people used to work from generation to generation, good jobs, good pension plans, provide health care throughout retirement. They're gone. Our trade policy. Why don't you talk about that, Bernie? Why don't you talk about the source of the impoverishment? It's the fucking trade deals that you guys signed off on because you got bought off by corporate America. No one's talking about these things, folks. When you look at the poverty in America, you think the trade deals. I wrote about this goddamn shit 20 fucking years ago. I think I know about it. I even posted a video showing many of the excerpts from my book discussing the ramifications of free trade, of trade with China and Japan and Mexico. I discussed the transfer of millions of jobs. Okay? You're not hearing the full truth. Why doesn't Bernie Sanders talk about that? Because he's full of shit, folks. All these guys are full of shit.
America now own more wealth than the bottom half of our society. But Trump had nothing to say, not one word, about the growing gap between the very rich and everybody else. And maybe, just maybe, that's because he had those 3 people, the 3 wealthiest people in our country, sitting right behind them at its inauguration. And I should add that those 3 people, if you can believe it, and this really is unbelievable, saw their wealth increase by more than $233 billion since the November elections. How's that $233 billion increase in wealth for the three wealthiest people. No wonder they were sitting right behind Donald Trump at his inauguration. They couldn't be happier. During his inaugural speech, Trump did not have one word to say about how we're going to address the planetary crisis of climate change. The last 10 years have been the warmest years ever recorded, and extreme weather disturbances and natural disasters are taking place all over the world, from Los Angeles to India, across Europe to North Carolina. Not one word from Trump about climate change, except, of course, to make it clear that he intends to make this horrific situation even worse with drill, baby, drill. Just brilliant. In the coming months and years, our job is not just to respond to every absurd statement that Donald Trump makes.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So I got a delay here. Climate change. Here we go. Climate change again. Climate change again, huh? Sorry, Bernie. There is no... Climate's changing all the time. There's no problem, dude. It's not a problem. It's okay. You see, when he pushes the whole climate change narrative, it completely gives him no credibility. He loses all credibility.
Our job is to stay focused on the issues that are of importance to the working families of our country, and in fact are widely supported by the American people. Let me just mention a few of them. Yes, yes. Healthcare is a human right, and we must...
So here goes Bernie again with healthcare. Once again, it's easy to pound the table on healthcare now that Trump's in office. Bernie, how about your buddy Biden? What did Biden do to make healthcare affordable? What did Biden do to create universal healthcare? He did zero. He did nothing. And the reason why is because both parties are bought and paid for by the healthcare lobby. That's fact.
Join every other major country in guaranteeing health care to all people through our Medicare for All single-payer program. Health care is a human right. Yes, we must take on the greed of Big Pharma and substantially lower the cost of prescription drugs in this country. Yes, we must build millions of units of affordable housing.
And you notice he wants to just focus on the drug company, the drugs, price of drugs. That's not, as I mentioned before, every single segment of America's healthcare industry is corrupt to the fucking core, needs to be completely dismantled and fixed. Okay? And one thing that people don't understand, of course, I wrote about this in my healthcare book 15 years ago. I showed how the private medical system is dipping its hand into the pot of the public healthcare system and defrauding it. They are defrauding Medicare and Medicaid. And if you don't believe me, you can take a look right now. You can do a search like I did 20 years ago. Take a look at your favorite healthcare company, whether it's a drug company, Merck, Bristol Myers, United Health, Cigna. Type it in right now and then type in fraud. And you're going to see pages upon pages of fucking entries. These companies defraud Medicare and Medicaid, mainly Medicare, every fucking year. And when they're caught, you go through and take a look right now. I don't need to do the search. I fucking wrote the book. When they're caught, guess what happens? The company gets fined a little bit. When they're caught, they get fined. Now, I want you to do a little search. And I know all this because I've done it all I mean, I know what's going on. Do a search. You may have run across a kind of one of those medical supply stores, Ma and Pa. They sell wheelchairs and shit like that, right? One of those stores. They get a lot of reimbursement from Medicare and Medicaid, right? Because of the things they sell. Take a look and see what happens to them. When they defraud the government, $10 million, $15 million, they go to fucking jail for 20 fucking years. When United Health defrauds the government through Medicare, through scam pricing and compensation programs, when they defraud the government of $1 billion, nothing happens. They just get fined. The CEO, nothing happens. You see? So Bernie doesn't want to talk about that. He just wants to talk about the high price of prescription drugs, which the reality is there's a cap for seniors. They don't pay more than, I think, $2,000 per year. Okay? Prescription drug prices actually aren't really as big of a problem as things like hospital services, the charges. Okay? Many other problems. But Bernie doesn't want to talk about that. He just wants to throw things out there to attack the other side when he could have urged his buddy Biden to fix health care. But once again, they don't ever plan on fixing health care. These guys, all the politicians, are bought and paid for by corporate America. That's a fact.
And low-income housing. Yes, we must make sure that all of our young people have the ability to get a higher education by making public colleges and universities tuition-free. Yes, we must work with the global community to combat climate change.
And you hear now, he wants to give public education in colleges, give it to everyone. It's free. Think about that. Make public colleges free. No, Bernie, I know you like that because you want to erase college debt. It doesn't work that way. You want to go to college, there's many fucking ways you can go. Many ways you can go. You can work like many people do. Okay? If you don't want to work, pay your tuition, take a fucking loan. Like many people do. If you don't want to do that, join the fucking army. They'll pay for everything. We don't need free college. There's nothing free. Free is going to come out of the taxpayers. Public universities. Who do you think funds public universities? Bernie, you stupid fuck. You know who funds public universities? Taxpayers. Okay? Just a typical gimmick trying to get the young vote. Yeah, free college. If I vote for Bernie, I get free college. Right? Typical fucking scam.
By cutting carbon emissions
There he goes again.
and transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel
Bernie,
and
shut
into
your
sustainable
fucking mouth,
energy.
dude. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, we must
and I'm going to
pass
celebrate
legislation
when
to
you're 6
raise
feet under.
the absurdly
We shouldn't
low
be
federal minimum
too
wage
far
of
along
$7.25
the
an
way.
hour to a
Here he goes with
living
his minimum
wage
wage bullshit again.
of $17
Bernie, close
an
the
hour.
borders
Anybody
and we
who
won't
works
need to raise minimum
40
wage. Minimum
hours
wage
a
will
week
raise
in this country should
by
not be
market
living in
forces
poverty.
naturally.
Yes, we must pass
Your
the
way
PRO Act
is going to
and make it
ensure
easier for workers
inflation.
to join
Market
trade
forces
unions
coming
and
into
grow
play,
the trade union
closing the
movement
borders,
in America.
pushing
Yes.
minimum wage up will
In order
not
to help fund the needs
increase inflation.
of working families in this country, we must demand that the wealthiest people in this country, including
So anyway, I'm done with this fucking lunatic con man. Hopefully you guys can see now. It's not just him. You'll notice in Washington, and they probably have copied this in other countries because everybody copies America, you know. Everybody around the world copies America. Everybody in the world wants to talk about our politics, our presidents, which basically makes you look like fucking losers. You're so immersed in our stuff. Like you're basically saying, yeah, we control the whole fucking world. That's why you're so obsessed with our politics. But basically, you're going to see these guys. Bernie Sanders is one of the guys, right? He's kind of a controlled opposition. He's the left-leaning guy. He's kind of on the Marxist side. And then now you got the newer person, Elizabeth Warren, right? She's fighting for the kind of like the Ron Paul on the other side. These people they're frauds, folks. I mean, they're frauds. I mean, who's the fraud detection expert out there? Moi. And I'm telling you, they're obvious frauds. In fact, I proved Ron Paul was a fraud. It's been confirmed. I proved he was a fraud a long time ago. It's been confirmed. Ron Paul teamed up with Porter Stansberry. Porter Stansberry, Agora Financially. Well, it's Stansberry Research now, but copy editing, scam artist, bullshit artist, Porter Stansberry, right? He teamed up with Porter Stansberry to sell doom. Market's going to collapse. Imminent danger to America's economy. You've got to buy this newsletter from Porter Stansberry. He's an expert. That's right. Ron Paul, the fucking scammer. Folks, politicians are whores. They bend over backward for a fucking buck. That's why they're known as whores. They're con men, lying scumbags. That's not just America. It's everywhere in the world. Everywhere. Now, don't think that we'd be better off without government, because I'm not one of these anti-government guys. Those are the con men. They take my arguments. Oh, yeah, so we're better without government. Do away with government. Oh, do away with regulation. Oh. No. Sorry, you're wrong, buddy. You fix the system. You don't topple it. You fix it.